Hi, I'm here to show you a moving variation of Anjaneyasana or the kneeling lunge. It'll be about a 10-minute practice, and I thought it might be nice to see how it flows together. Um, yeah, let's give it a try. So what you will need is one hard foamy block, probably your mat, and some space. So we'll begin kneeling with hips off of heels or on all fours, whatever feels easier for you. And then you'll step the right foot forward. Yeah. From here, we can tuck the block under the left knee. That might feel a little different for you if you're used to lunging without a block, but just give it a try. It allows those hips to get a little more even, kind of depending on the geometry of your legs. So you'll notice that my front knee is over my front ankle, my back hip is over my back knee. I'm inviting a really neutral pelvis here, which means I'm drawing the tailbone down just slightly, feeling that sense of engagement. I feel those front ribs slide together a little bit and a little bit down towards the pelvis, just to remind me of that sense of keeping the ribs and pelvis stacked. From here, I'm pressing down through the front foot and gently pulling it back towards me. And that's going to invite the calf and the hamstrings to engage a little bit. At the same time, I've tucked the back toes. I'm pressing those toes into the mat, and a little squeeze to that left buttock as I pull that thigh kind of forward, and that maintains that neutral pelvis. From here, if I'm feeling a little wibbly wobbly, I could take the right foot to the right a smidgen. That widens the base. And I could also bring my hands to the front thigh as I move. Another option could be to float the arms to the sides for balance, because this is a balancing asymmetrical pose, or to even float the arms overhead, as long as we can maintain that sense of drawing the front ribs in and down, maintaining not an anterior tilt and not a posterior tilt, but that neutral pelvic alignment. So now let's give it a try. We're letting those front knees track over the second or third toes. As we do, we're hoping to stay upright again without that anterior tilt, so that we're really stretching that left thigh. Then as we come back, we're pulling that left thigh forward. That's an eccentric lengthening. So at that lengthened state, it engages, bringing us back up. So we come forward, we pull that front foot back to engage the backs of that front leg. And then as we come back up, we're pulling that thigh forward, squeezing the glute. So it's quite an active movement, pulling back, pulling forward until we get those muscles engaged, warmed up. I'm starting to invite that length and strength at the same time. It's tempting to let the pelvis shift forward, let the torso shift forward, but instead trying to maintain upright without finding that arch in the low back, without that anterior tilt. And that's where we find the true hip extension. Now in that article, we also talked about maybe hinging back into a hamstring stretch, and if so, active press of the heel, active hamstrings, there's that eccentric lengthening, and then forward again, trying to maintain neutral upright pelvis to find the stretch there without going into an anterior tilt. So let's do that a few more times. You're going to feel the body warming up because this is quite active. It's not a passive stretching movement. This is muscular engagement the whole way. Trying to soften it a bit. Can we find that stability to be here? Can we deepen the movement? And knowing this hinge back is totally optional, can we start to really awaken and engage those muscles at end length? Yeah. As usual, if you need more challenge, maybe close your eyes. Notice how that feels, feeling it from the inside out. All right, from here, we'll come back to our neutral upright position. And this is where I will turn to face you so you can get a bit more of a visual here. So we're in that upright position. Yeah, nice and neutral, just the way we started. I'm bringing my hand to the front thigh, and I'll reach the other arm up. You can't see my fingertips, but they're still there. Pressing down through the bent knee, reaching up through the fingertips, starting to get that sense of space between side ribs and the side of the pelvis. Beginning to side bend away from that side as I shift that left hip to the left a smidgen. For some of us, we're going to get nice into the psoas here and deep into the groin. And then we'll slowly come up, feeling the side ribs slide back down. We'll do that a few more times. Reach long, shift over, let that hip shift. And feel the slide as we start to engage those obliques. Yeah. I like to feel the slide. And this can be quite active as well. I'm pressing down through the front foot. I can bring my hand to the front thigh for more support here. I'll do a few more of these, kind of stretching like an elastic band, and then slowly releasing that. If you feel you need a little more stretch, you could hinge the hips forward as long as you can maintain neutral pelvis. Reach up, and that's going to deepen the stretch into the groin. Yeah, a couple more here. Noticing how the breath shows up. All right, as we come back upright, a final piece of this, we're floating our arms out to the sides and begin to shift the weight back a little bit onto the bent knee. I'm going to begin to tap the front foot. Yeah, I could tap a few points out to the side. Things get a little topsy-turvy here. Kind of just play with what's possible. Notice my arms can flail, my leg can move in all directions. This is just noticing we've got lots of wiggle room here. What can really help is pressing that bent knee down into the block, and then even playing with, dropping those toes of the floating foot now and then tapping them to the mat to find stable, and see how close we can get to pretending there's a block under that floating knee. Yeah, I'd say play here for a few more breaths. And again, you can play with what's possible. You can move all around. This could become a bit of a half moon, I'm hitting a wall here, but it could be more of a warrior three. Yeah. So let's notice one more breath. And then we'll come to kneeling, stepping off that block. Whew, maybe close your eyes, maybe bring your hands to your belly. Draw your awareness inward, allowing that inhale to land soft and deep. That exhale, soft and slow. Maybe noticing as you compare sensation from side to side that one side of the body does feel really different than the other. And that we use the body asymmetrically and that we can feel that. So as you open your eyes, let's prepare to do all of this again on the other side. So this time it will be the left foot forward, and we'll tuck the block under the right knee. And again, we're setting up left knee over left ankle, right hip over right knee. We're tucking those back toes and pressing the toes into the mat and finding neutral. So you can always find a little anterior, find a little posterior, and then what does it feel like to be in the middle here? Yeah. Again, widen your base, hands to the thigh for more support. As we let the knee track forward, keeping that heel rooted, can we stay fairly upright to find an honest stretch here? And it might mean actively squeezing that butt, drawing the tailbone down. It almost feels like you're exaggerating a posterior tilt, but it's because we're really being pulled into anterior. So I want to maintain upright, maintain that true hip extension without just tilting the pelvis to get there. And then we'll come back up. Remember, we're pulling back through the front foot as we come forward. We're pulling forward through the back thigh as we come back up. Noticing how that feels. And this can be a very small movement, especially if those hip flexors are really tight, if the psoas is really stopping that true hip extension for the thigh to come behind the pelvis, behind the torso, without an anterior tilt here. Yeah. So it can be quite juicy, the sensations. If you want to grow the movement a little bit more, you could hinge back. Again, this depends on balance. This is where maybe the arms will float around a little bit. And you want to maintain that sense of press. Press down through the front heel. Active, long hamstrings when you get there. Yeah, and it's really tempting to lose that true hip extension. So we want to be really aware of that squeeze and that press. So we engage those long thigh muscles. At the end here, we engage in that eccentric way. Yeah, we'll do a few more of these. Thinking about that relationship of the front ribs drawing in and down, maintaining that relationship to the front of the pelvis. Pulling back, active hamstring and glute. Still active as we press down. Couple more. You can go as slow as you want to here. Spend a little time at either end, but maintaining some engagement in these lengthened muscles. But we want to be strong where we're long and feel strength at end range. Okay, the next time you find yourself upright, we're going to invite that side bend. So this time I will show you from the side view. Hand to the front thigh, other arm reaching. Again, you can't see my hand, but it's there. So I'm squeezing that butt a little bit, pulling the thigh forward, reaching long, feeling that separation and length between the side rib and the pelvis. As I reach to the left, I'm shifting my right hip to the right. And you can't see this here, but you saw it in the last side. This is where we get into an interesting stretch. As we come back up, we're feeling the side ribs draw down towards the pelvis, reach long. There's the stretch again. Hip is allowed to shift to the right. We're going to keep flowing with that. Stretch. There's the pull of the elastic band. There's the engagement to bring the ribs back to a neutral place over the pelvis. And depending on your mobility, depending on the sense of stretch, you could hinge forward a little bit, get that thigh into extension or that hip into extension, and again, stretch long, shift over, keep the squeeze of the butt, keep drawing the thigh forward to keep the stretch nice and honest. A good honest stretch. And I like to move in and out of these poses, really inviting the blood flow, inviting that shifting and returning to center. A couple more. So we'll meet back upright. And here we are. Again, I'm going to show you the side view of the balance pose as opposed to the front view. So I'm floating the arms to the sides for balance, shifting the weight onto the bent knee. I'm going to hop the back foot. I can point and flex. Yeah, eventually I could sweep that leg just about anywhere, pressing down through the bent knee and noticing what's possible here. And again, we can really play. So okay, if we need to put that foot down or put the hand down, it's a really wibbly wobbly balance pose. Yeah. Finding that gaze point, maybe experimenting, or maybe drawing that thigh beside the other one, pretending it's on a block too, and finding stability here. Yeah, maybe tapping those back floating toes down somewhere. And if you need more challenge, you can even untuck the standing knee toes and see if that's a different experience. We'll be here for 3 or 4 more breaths. And this is a tricky one to find absolute steadiness. You kind of have to make peace with a little wibble wobble. Still breathing, still feeling. Making peace with a little wibble wobble. Okay, one more slow breath in. And then as we exhale, let's bring those knees back to the mat. And again, from kneeling or child pose, close your eyes. Find your breath. Soften your shoulders with each exhale. Expand through the belly, the waist, the back with each inhale. And the inhale, soft and deep. And the exhale softer and slower. And beginning to again notice the feeling from side to side in the body. Perhaps feeling a little more balanced, a little enlivened. And slowly opening your eyes. Thank you for joining me. I hope this was helpful. Namaste.